everything that happened yesterday. I apologize if my mic was working there. But hello, everyone, and welcome to today's update. We had a little bit of a mic issue there. That can be an issue when I don't have a guest to notice that my mic is not on. But hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 10th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 25 in the house, and as you can see, I am here on my own. I apologize once again for the mic being muted there. Aman is / was set to join me here this morning. I think having some issues with power. So Aman may be able to jump in at some point during the podcast if he's able to get that sorted. But in the meantime, I'm here on my own, here to chat with you. We haven't done one of these yet this season. We haven't connected, the two of us. I kind of feel like I'm a little bit of a Quinn to you guys right now. We made a final two, and then I'm not checking in. But here on my own for now to talk to you about what happened yesterday, and oh boy, there's a lot to get to. A lot to get to. So let me pull up this little graphic here. So as you all know, Angela won the HOH on Thursday night. But Quinn has the deep fake HOH power. So Quinn plans to use this power, and we'll see where things go from there. Angela spent the morning talking about still feeling like she has the power to nominate. So this is the situation. Angela is the HOH. Quinn is going to take over her nominations. She thinks she's still going to make nominations. And then they're just going to be overturned. That is not the case. She's not going to make any nominations. It's just going to be Quinn's nominations, but she doesn't know that yet. So she spent the morning talking with Tucker about what nominations she should be making. The night before, she talked to Quinn and she asked him if he had any untouchables, anybody that he didn't want to see go on the block, and he said chemo for some reason. So they also discussed, Angela and Tucker, that chemo must really be Quinn's genuine final two, because not only did he tell chemo about his power, but he's also now saying that he really wants chemo to be safe from Angela's non-existent nomination powers that he okay. So it's weird. Here's how Quinn's power works. He's going to make the nominations. He's going to also be able to make the renom. And hold on.
Okay. Hey. Hi, sorry. I had a bit of a power issue, but I'm here.
Welcome in, Aman. It's I started the update with my mic muted because there was nobody to talk to before I started.
All right. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's struggling with technology today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gotten too far here, Aman. I'm just sort of explaining how Quinn's power works, talking about Angela and Tucker's conversation.
Okay.
That basically Quinn will name the nominees. He will also have the power to name the renomination. This is a point of contention later. He will not be guaranteed to compete in the veto. That is not something, but he can compete, but Angela has the HOH spot.
Right.
Then according to Quinn, he will be voting in the eviction, and will be able to compete in next week's HOH competition, which we've said this, that's wild. That should not be the case. That's absurd.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they were thinking when they put these two twists side by side. It wouldn't be so egregious if the other power wasn't like right next to it, like if it was just this power and that was it, we'd be like, oh, that's kind of OP, but at least it's the only power in the game, as opposed to Mackenzie clearly getting the short end of the stick, which is kind of ironic when you think about it, considering that she did use it to save herself last week. But yeah, being able to vote, I think, is the true kicker. Like, and it's not like you would. I feel like it would be a lot more interesting if he wasn't allowed to vote, because what? There's 13 people left, right? 3 people on the block. If he couldn't vote, that's 4. So then there'd be 9 people left to vote. So no ties. But now there's a possibility still for a tie. I don't know. It just feels like so much power for Quinn. And he really needed it because his game was going down the toilet anyway. So.
Mhm. Yes. Also, I had this thing in my note application. It did an AI summary of my notes for today. And so it says the detailed document includes interactions and strategies among players in a game, focusing on alliances, nominations, and individual game plans. Key points include discussions about final 2 alliances, the impact of the veto, tensions between players, particularly involving Quinn and Tucker. The dynamics shift as players consider nominations and potential replacements, with Quinn navigating complex relationships and strategizing for future rounds while dealing with conflicts and misunderstandings among house guests.
Yeah, me turning in a book report 1 hour before it's due. Chat GPT is getting paid by the word, okay? I love it.
There you go. So that's the summary of the day, and there's your update. Thank you for joining us.
You man, this the Ainsley update, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So the actual people with power, of course, Quinn has the power, and he is going to start doing some one-on-ones, and he's going to hold the one-on-ones in the have-not room. He has dressed himself up in a suit. He is going to have business meetings,
Mhm.
and talk to everyone. He has a time limit. He's going to be called into the diary room to make his nominations in just a couple of hours, and so he has to be a little bit time sensitive here. Um, so
I mean, we've seen this before. Someone sort of like running their HOH like it's a series of interviews, professionally done, suit and tie and everything. I mean, I thought it was silly and quintessential Quinn at this point in time. No, given what we've known about the rest of his antics, it's so funny that like Angela still has the HOH room and is currently doing her own one-on-ones, and his HOH is punted to the Badlands in the have not room. I thought the juxtaposition of that was on feeds was kind of funny, but yeah, he's gonna go ahead and get started.
it was funny too because Angela was also kind of doing one-on-ones on
Yep.
her own at
Yep.
the same time. But Quinn starts with Cedric, and Cedric, of course, the night before had he'd volunteered for the block.
Mhm.
And I said last night that, Quinn didn't seem that receptive, but he probably should be because, like, if somebody's gonna jump on there for you, you might as well, and he is probably gonna help compete against Tucker. So Quinn tells Cedric, "Here's the plan," because Quinn had said the night before, "My plan is Rubina, MJ, Tucker on the block." That's what Quinn intends to do. So the
Mhm.
point of these meetings is to provide a story that he can then tell MJ and Rubina about why they're on the block. And so
Right.
he expresses this to Cedric, that he plans to ask everyone, who do you think would use the veto on Tucker? And who do you think can compete against Tucker? And so the answers to those 2 questions he's going to say are, well, everyone's going to say Rubina is going to use the veto on Tucker, and that Mackenzie's a good competitor to put on the block against Tucker. And then he can say, well, I asked these questions to everybody, and everybody told me these 2 names, Rubina and MJ. That's why I put the 2 of you up. That's basically the plan.
Yeah, it's like, how far is the deep fake going to go? It's got to have a reason for 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 everything. Just like a really surgical attack to his HOH, which, we've seen this done before, needing to have a reason to make it make sense to the rest of the house. I mean, I think the Rubina one is an obvious one. I don't think that you really need to conduct interviews for that. And I think throwing Mackenzie up there after she had just used her power is also grounds for putting her up on the block again. So, I get the point of like needing a narrative to go with the rest of the house, but this house is full of people that are pretty savvy, and I feel like, we kind of all of them kind of know what's going on and what to expect.
Yes. So Cedric says that makes a lot of sense to me. But just so you know, I am still down to go on the block if you need me to compete.
We are
And
in the
Quinn is like, I
trenches.
mean, all right, I guess I'll consider that. But I'd want to talk to the Pentagon. So see how they feel about it.
I mean, obviously, never ever do this. Do not volunteer to go on the block. You can never know what will happen. Yada yada yada. But I mean, on one hand, like, Quinn and Brooklyn have been feeling like the bottom of the Pentagon Alliance, or they know that they are the bottom of the Pentagon Alliance. So I'm kind of like, okay, we already know that there are cracks within Chelsea, Cam, and Cedric. I would say the strongest duo out of the Pentagon is probably Cedric Chelsea. So maybe, it can do something for Quinn here to think, oh, well, if Cedric is that willing to go on the block next to Tucker, granted, it's an easy ass house target in Tucker, but maybe there's like a little bit of movement. Maybe there's like, something that Quinn and Cedric can take from this and build upon, especially since Quinn really, he needed this HOH at this point because, his game is exposed. He feels like he's at the bottom of his alliance. Like, you got to take the olive branch where you can get it. So,
Yes. So after the talk with Cedric, Quinn says to the cameras, you know what? In terms of the hierarchy of my final twos, Cedric is up there.
yeah.
But at some point he will need to go.
Yeah, I feel like we've been hearing a lot of that about many different players. Like Tucker, heard about Cedric, heard it about Rubina, Mackenzie. Everyone's like, there's a bunch of like next week hit lists. Like not next week, but like the week after next hit lists for a bunch of different players. So it's like somebody's got to be the first one to go. And how is that going to then mess up the plans of getting the other one out? So, everyone is like just about ready to jump onto their target, but not quite yet. So I'm excited to see how that pans out. Who strikes first there?
So in the meantime, Angela's been doing her one-on-ones. She was talking to Chemo and basically telling Chemo that the only person she feels she has in the game right now is Tucker, which is going to start spreading around the house later that Angela and Tucker are apparently now super tight.
Yeah.
And that's not great for Tucker.
It's not great for Tucker. That's the kiss of death right there. And I love how you're super tight with Tucker, even though you didn't know that veto was getting used by him. Like, but I mean, if I were Angela, I would feel the same way. Like, you've had a hell of a time in that house so far. You've ostracized yourself. You tried to slowly assimilate yourself back into the rest of the community. And lo and behold, your attempts of assimilation end up with you getting the veto used on you unbeknownst to you. So if I were Angela, I'd probably be like, all right, I'm on me up and up. I'm up right now. Tucker to use the veto on me. That's my bro. Here we go. Let's make it rock.
Yeah. So Quinn talks to Cam, and he brings up Cedric's idea of going up on the block. And at this point, it's clear that Quinn has started to think about this as a serious option. Cam is honestly like doesn't seem that into the idea. He also just seems tired. It's kind of early for them. And Cam says it would look kind of weird because Cedric did just save you. He says, and I could go up too if you needed me to do that. And it's Quinn feels like yeah, I mean it might make more sense to do it to do you. But then also maybe it makes even more sense to do Cedric because then we can kind of like play off of this idea that he just saved me and then I put him up. And so I don't know. I could go either way. And Cam is just like not very enthusiastic about anything.
Yeah, Cam, I don't know. I can't really get a read on him that well. All I know for sure is that he got a thing for Miss Leah over there. Other than that, it feels like his game is really just to be as low key as possible. And I feel like he said that he would do something similar to that effect during a lot of the preseason content, but like I don't know, like this whole conversation with Quinn was so strange because he's like, yeah, I mean, I don't really know who could go up. I mean, I guess I could go up, but like, yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I mean, if you put me up, but then like Cedric, it's just like, what do you want? What do you want to do?
Yeah, after the conversation, Quinn says to the cameras, I feel like Cam, I initially thought he was the best player in the game. But I don't feel that way anymore. I think he's just coasting on early positioning right now.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
says, "Now I think the best players in the game are Chelsea, Brooklyn, Cedric, and myself." So there you
Well,
go.
listen, like that average went down when he added himself. Let me tell you that right now.
Then things get worse because then Quinn talks to Leah. And man, I was on stream when I watched this conversation, and I had to avert my eyes many times. So I don't recall if we've
Yeah.
mentioned this. The Quinn Leah final two was named the Snoots. And their little like final two symbol thing is that they do this with their nose. And so
Mhm.
he
Mhm.
starts the meeting, like, with the,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is and, like, just to remind all of you, she, like, hates him now. Like,
Mhm.
she has revealed their final 2 to everyone, and he still doesn't know it. She
Mhm.
said he gives her the ick, and, like, she can barely stand being around him. She's exposed that he's the one that told her the thing about, Cedric, and the bag comment. Like, she wants nothing to do with it. But he doesn't know any of that. And so he starts like, "Oh, it's our final to the Snoots. Remember that?" It's
Mhm.
like, it's I think, like, for Leah, it's like the friend that she had in elementary school, like, coming up to her in high school and being like, "Hey, Rex, you remember the things we used to do?" And she's like, "Oh god, stay away."
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm cringing extra hard because for one person in elementary school, I was that person. I
Listen,
really
it
was.
happens.
I walked up to
Um
that person and they were not enthused. But oh well.
So she says, "Listen, I know I've been hearing a lot about your final twos, but I know that ours is the only one that matters."
Okay.
That's what she's alluding to. He says, "Yeah, Tucker's been saying I have all these final twos, but I don't actually
Yeah.
have all of those final." Like, full disclosure, I had a final two with Angela in week 1. But that's basically that was like, and then you, and it's like, I guess he forgot he told her about his final two with chemo. Um, he talks about, like, okay, well, here's what my plan is. It's I think I'm gonna put Tucker on the block. She says, "Well, wouldn't you want to backdoor Tucker?" And he says, "Well, he can compete in the AI arena competition anyway." I have been wondering why he's not really considering the backdoor for Tucker. But like, I get the idea that, like, oh well, he can compete in the AI arena competition anyway, but, like, you know, that just means he has extra competitions to win.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's Tucker, and he might not even want to win the veto or use it on himself. So I guess it kind of balances out in the end.
Yeah, and maybe he just figures like with the amount of people in the house at this point, the likelihood of him getting drawn is relatively decent. So like he's like, whatever, like I'll just put him up. Maybe it'll tire him out, having to be on potentially for 2 competitions, assuming he loses the veto. So, yeah, whatever. I mean, and Tucker is game to play anyway. So it's Tucker's all about giving the people the show that they want. So whatever.
It's and I just want to reiterate how awkward this is, but, like, the whole conversation just feels very awkward. He starts asking, like, "Who else do you think I should put up?" She actually suggests Mackenzie as a nominee. He asks, "Well, is MJ coming for me?"
Hmm.
And she says, "No," but she just thinks that you're coming after her, which is, like,
Yeah.
the worst way to answer that question, because it very explicitly lays out that you intended to lie but accidentally told the truth anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and so,
Yeah.
uh, Quinn is like, "Well, I thought you guys were besties." She's like, "Nah, not really."
I don't feel like Leah's really besties with anybody, to be honest. Like Leah is just
She wants to be besties with Tucker.
yeah. And I think she just goes from person to person and sees what she can get. And then moves on to the next person. Leah will cut anybody's throat. It doesn't matter who it is. Eventually it'll probably she'll come for Tucker if Tucker doesn't give her what she wants, which is not going to happen, by the way. So yeah, I think it was interesting. Like, it's like you suggest Mackenzie goes up, but like you still want to be close with Mackenzie. Like, it's just like a anybody but me type game that she's playing right now.
Yeah. So then he asks the question that he plans to ask everybody. Who do you think would save Tucker with the veto?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, is Tucker not going to be on the block? No. Who do you think would save Tucker if he's on the block with the veto? She's like, you want to save Tucker? It's like, no, so if somebody's off, if somebody's going to save, why would anybody save Tucker if they're on the block? No. So if somebody is off the block and they win the veto, who do you think would save Tucker? I'm just so confused why you would want to save Tucker. I don't want to save Tucker. Okay. And then he goes, okay, can you please grab my hands? Hold my hands while I'll tell you this. And she does not hold his hands. And the hands remain on the table for like a good minute, just unheld. It's like, so somebody who's off the block, I'm asking if you think there is anybody who, if off the block, would not save or would save Tucker with the veto. Like, oh, I don't know. She's like, I know MJ tried to keep Tucker.
Every year there's somebody on Twitter that does the Mean Girls trailer, but uses footage from the current season of Big Brother. She has to be Karen. She has to be Karen. For those of you that know, you know. I don't want to see any rendition of that video where Leah is not Karen. Okay? She has to be Karen. She has cemented herself as Karen with this entire exchange. This was so aggravating. And I was at work while I was watching this, and at first I was really upset because I got a phone call the minute that Leah walked in there to talk to him, and I was like, oh my god, I don't want to miss this conversation. And so I'm like half listening to the person on the phone and then half listening to the conversation with Leah, and I was getting so pissed off at Leah that I'm sure that I probably pissed off that person on the phone. Don't watch feeds while you work. It's not a good idea. A lot.
It's bad, but it just keeps like, and he's wearing his like little sunglasses, and he's like, he pulls them down. He's like, wow, in all shades, and she's just like not responding anymore because like this used to be their dynamic, but it's not anymore. And this is him realizing it, but in very, very awkward fashion. And so she ends up leaving. He's like, oh my god. That was awful.
I think he's been so self-absorbed with his own idea of the game and like where his positioning was, that not that the literal rug has been pulled from beneath his feet and what happened back on Thursday or on Wednesday. It's just been like him just discovering many ways in which he has been behind. And even then, he still feels like he's going to be okay because he has this HOH to fall back on. So it's just I need for this to be the first of many reality checks for him in order for him to really get dialed back in to like where he actually stands. Because I don't know, just telling anybody about this power was the worst thing that he could have done. It's the reason that he's on the block, and it's the reason that people don't trust him now. It's the reason that he's had like this sense of complacency up until now. It's just it's not good. It's not good at all.
Yeah, he says that was like pulling teeth to get information from her. She was so cagey. He says, I'm not gonna put her up, but like I like her, and don't take that in a weird way. But I think she's really fun and weird, and I like having her in the house. But that was crazy.
Yeah, the calls are coming from inside the house, buddy.
So we get a conversation from Rubina and Tucker. Rubina has been a little bit concerned about Tucker because she knows that MJ wants an alliance with Tucker, but she doesn't want Rubina involved. So she asks him directly about MJ. She says, I know MJ wanted an alliance with you that didn't include me. and he kind of just talks around it. But it's, the thing about any Rubina and Tucker conflict is that, like, how should I say this? Desire overrides anything else.
Yeah.
They'll have conflict all they want. They'll come back together every time when it comes to, once they're in physical proximity with each other.
They're still in the honeymoon phase of each other. They just happen to be in the honeymoon. They're spending their honeymoon in the Big Brother house. So like, yes, they're going to want to talk the game, and they're going to want to there's a level of mistrust there because of alliances and exclusion and things of that nature. And then, just and that on top of everything with Tucker just being Tucker and making it very hard to be close to him. The hearts and the eyes are gonna take it, at least for now. And I think that everyone, all of her, alliance members, the Chemo, T-Core, they are correct in saying that, like, look, this is not good for your game. He is going to drag you down. And even if he ends up winning the comps, you will be out and he'll still be here. It's not good. It's not good. At least not right now. You need to learn how to weaponize Tucker. But I don't think he's weaponizable. He's just gonna do what he does. So it's gonna be rough for her being this close.
Quinn then talks to Rubina in his one-on-one with her. He says he's been asking around, like, who would use the veto on Tucker. And she also has trouble understanding this question. Not quite as much as Leah, though. She ultimately says, I would respect the HOH's wishes. And he makes a joke like, but not Angela's, right? And she's like, no, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He says, and they talk some more, but basically she agrees. She says she would not use the veto on Tucker if she were to win it. And after she leaves, he says she might be going on the block. He's still considering putting Rubina on the block. And then he says, in terms of my final twos, that one's probably dead. The Rubina final two, probably not happening anymore. And then he ranks his final twos in order of least importance to highest importance. And I thought that this was very interesting in terms of where Quinn's head is at in the game right now. And he to tell you up front, he forgets Cedric in this list. He said Cedric was up there, so I'm not entirely sure where that would be, but this is how he lists them. Angela at the bottom. Rubina next.
Okay.
Then Leah. Then Chemo, because they haven't really checked in on their final two since week 1. Then Joseph. And then Brooklyn at the top. And so I assume that Cedric falls somewhere either below or above Chemo. I'd lean toward below, but who knows? But very interesting to hear how highly he values Joseph in particular. And Brooklyn is not as surprising, but definitely worth noting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Brooklyn obviously being there makes a lot of sense, considering that, if anything, I don't even see it. So I feel like he's a little bit closer to Joseph on an interpersonal level because superfan reasons. And then Brooklyn is more so her proximity to security and power because of the fact that they have the Pentagon together, and because of the fact that they both know that they are not in the core of the Pentagon. So I think that all of those sort of make sense. I was surprised that he did not mention Cedric, but Cedric might just be not top of mind considering that he's already placing him on the block right now. So it's yeah, interesting. But Chemo, that one's also interesting to me because you would think that they would be trying to talk a bit more considering that he knows that Chemo spilled the beans. So it's is he still your final two? Do you if you consider him a final two, do you think that he still considers you a final two because he's over here spilling your secrets? And why?
I think that's why he's lower on the list now, is because he spilled the secret, and it's obvious that he's closer to T-Core now.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would venture to say that one is probably done, but I guess never burn bridges. So
yeah. So Quinn talks to Chelsea next. He brings up Cedric's volunteer plan. She says, honestly, I don't have an opinion. Either way, he's safe. So the plan that way would be Because this was the thing. If Cedric is going on the block, who is he replacing? Is he replacing Rubina or is he replacing MJ? And Quinn says it would be replacing Rubina, that he would put MJ, Cedric, and Tucker on the block with Rubina as the replacement nominee. They do bring up Cam as an option as well. But ultimately Chelsea doesn't really, again, have an opinion one way or the other. She doesn't really want to be a part of that decision. She asks how he feels about the collective. He says he feels fine about it. He says he tested Leah by asking if MJ was coming after him, and she said no. So Chelsea's like, well, yeah, that's a lie. She says, yeah, Leah was talking about how she's pissed that MJ was trying to start an alliance without her. So there's definitely a rift between them. And then he says, I feel great about the Pentagon. And honestly, Chelsea, like, I kind of see you as our captain, the captain of the Pentagon. I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't know. She's like, what, me? No, I feel like Cedric is the captain of the Pentagon.
Yeah, I mean, I would never have told Chelsea that. I would not have said that to her. Because I think that she's very self-aware of the fact that, like, she didn't even want to win that HOH that she had. And so, yeah, I don't know I'm not sure what Quinn is thinking here, because you're already in a tenuous position. I think he just
talks. I think he just says things.
He really does. He really does.
He's like, Chelsea's the best player. I need to tell her.
And I think he's just so excited to be there and to be playing, and that's beautiful and that's lovely. But there has to be some level of discretion here, and he is lacking that so much.
So right after this, he's called to the DR, and it's about an hour earlier than he expected. He also spent way too long on Leah. And so he is not able to finish any of the conversations that he was planning to have. He starts walking out. He's like, MJ, do you want to talk to me? But I got to go down. She's like, I guess not. Like, and then he leaves. He goes down to the diary room, and MJ says to Chelsea, I'm so
yeah.
MJ's like, Chemo's trying to deny that he's close to Quinn, which is such an obvious lie. MJ says, I can only trust you and Tucker in this house.
Mackenzie, you can't trust anybody really in that house. Like,
nope.
She has done such a she's just ever since week 1, she's never been able to catch up. And I'm kind of surprised by that, because Mackenzie's she's a nice girl. Like, she's sweet. She's generally inoffensive. Like, and she's pretty, so she's got a little bit of pretty privilege going on as well. Like, one would think that she'd be able to, like, integrate, but it just feels like she just doesn't have anything in common with anybody. She can't ever, like, get in good in a conversation. It's that age-old, when she enters a room, she feels like everyone either leaves or stops talking. And I just think that she's, like, so in her head about not being on the inside that she spends no time trying to be on the inside. And she could be a fantastic number for a lot of people. Yes. There are a lot of factions that are breaking out right now, and they just need to pick her up.
Yep.
And she should realize that too.
MJ is definitely partially at fault here for not being more active. The problem is she thinks she has Chelsea, and she doesn't. Chelsea doesn't care about her. But, like, the entire house is missing the massive opportunity of picking MJ up. Like, MJ is the only player on the board who's actually able to be picked up right now. Because she has no other solid ties other than Chelsea. And that's a problem. But if you can get her off of Chelsea, you can have Mackenzie, and she's a stable player who is loyal to her people, who will probably win competitions. She's a great number to pick up in a house that's so chaotic, with full of like situations where, like, hey, we know there's a big structure that we're not a part of. How should we deal with this? I guess work with the people in the structure instead of picking up a number like Mackenzie. But anyway, more on that later. So Quinn gets out of the diary room, and he has made his nominations. He has used his power and has officially become the deep fake HOH. So He's gonna let MJ know, I put you up. I put you up. I think you can beat Tucker in the competition. But listen, I promise I will not vote to evict you because I do have a vote.
Yeah. Which is like a little bit of reassurance on her end. I mean, I think Mackenzie, handled the conversation as well as she could. She was like, "Look, I totally get it. I understand. I am a competitor. I think I can do pretty well. I'll give it my best shot. I just hope that depending on who I'm up to next, like if he does win, like, am I still going to be good? So and that's all she really can do. I mean, she didn't get a chance to talk to him beforehand, so hey."
Yeah. Quinn quickly tells Joseph the plan he went with was MJ, Tucker, and he did go ahead and put Cedric on the block. And Rubina is the planned replacement. Now, very quickly, things get a little more heated because one thing that was happening was Tucker was having a conversation with Rubina prior to Quinn making his nominations. He was arguing with Rubina about how A, Quinn has a final two with chemo, and B, he's still convinced that Quinn has no power over the renominations. So this is an issue that has been mostly hidden from us on the feeds that Quinn is addressing in each one of his one-on-ones throughout the morning. He says, Tucker's trying to claim I'm lying about my power. I want you to know I can't do that. That would be using production as a strategy. I wouldn't do that. That's cheating in the game. And like, I genuinely take offense to the idea that I would do something like that. In the meantime, Tucker is very adamantly saying, nope, I know how the power works, and Quinn is lying about it. He does not get to name the replacement nominee. So all of this comes to a head in a big blow-up argument that we didn't see on the feeds between Quinn and Tucker that ends with them kind of yelling at each other through the kitchen, and Tucker calling Quinn a lying sack of shit, and saying that he knows how the power works, and that he does not have the ability to make the replacement nominee, and so Quinn goes into one of the bedrooms to talk to the cameras. He's like, I'm being accused of being a cheater. Like, I don't know why he thinks I'm like lying here. But he's clearly a bit shaken from the interaction. Leah comes in to check on him, and it's pretty clear he's like trying not to cry. How genuine that is in that moment, hard to tell because the feed's immediately cut. But basically, there was a big argument about this.
Yeah, I'm upset that we didn't get to see it. So what is it that Quinn told Tucker in that moment that he would, if
I think he just said, I can name the replacement nominee. I cannot lie about my power. That is using production as a strategy. That would be cheating. And Tucker said, you're a lying sack of shit. You're still lying to me. You're cheating.
Is this because we think that Quinn was probably trying to tell him like that he would probably put up Rubina?
No, I think that this had been a conflict that Quinn was trying to just like, Quinn was telling everybody because Tucker had already been accusing him of lying. And so Quinn was just trying to like tell Tucker, like, just so you know, I cannot lie about my power. This is how it works. And Tucker was just like, I don't believe you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty OP power, so it's like there isn't a reasonable level of doubt that someone might have and be like, well, that seems like a lot. I mean, Mackenzie just got a veto and you're get to do all this. That's crazy. So I get it, but like, I mean, he's right here. You're not allowed to lie about your powers, even though Mackenzie kind of was lying by omission to a couple of people on her power last week. So it's a bit muddy. It's always muddy with some of these rules. And when
this has been talked about that Mackenzie, because here's the thing. I don't think that Mackenzie like actively tried to lie about her power. She also pretty quickly made sure to clarify later because I assume she was talked to in the diary room. And also it was a situation where the true knowledge about her power was already out there, and it was more a misunderstanding than an active trying to like blatantly lie about it, from my point of view. So yeah, I mean, they have always been pretty clear about this. If Mackenzie had lied or even just not said the right thing,
it was muddy because she said nothing changes if I use my power. I'm like, that's not
right.
true.
Right. What I'm saying is that if if that had held, if she hadn't corrected the record, or if other people didn't know the truth and correct the record, then she would have and might have been told in the diary room, you must go and correct the record.
Mhm.
We've seen this before. Jessica tried to lie about her power. Same thing happened. She was then later told that she needs to go and tell the truth about her power. If Quinn was lying about his power, he would be pulled into the diary room. They would tell him, you are not allowed to use production as a strategy. Go and tell them the truth. And then he would go and tell them the truth. And then that's how that would work. So, yes.
Are you allowed? Yeah, and so you're not allowed to lie about powers that you have. Are you allowed to lie about powers that you don't have?
Yes.
So anybody else could claim that they have the power and then claim whatever it is that the power does, and they would not get in trouble. But Quinn would get in trouble if he lied.
Yes, because that's not using production as a strategy. Because basically, if you lie about a power that production has confirmed exists, then you're using the fact that production is backing you up to make your lie. Whereas if you make something up wholesale, then people can be like, well, we've never heard about this before. We just have to take your word that it exists. And so that's like a fair thing to make a claim for.
Could be an interesting way of snooping out who actually does have the power by getting a bunch of people to lie about what the power actually does, and then seeing who gets talked to by production.
Well, you could lie. You could, like, I mean, Quinn when asked what he thinks the power does, was able to lie about what he thinks the power does, because he wasn't saying I have the power and this is what it does.
Mm.
So, yeah,
I'll log
interesting
that
stuff.
one away in my Big Brother Bible.
So, Joseph is going to talk to Chelsea. Joseph is going to be doing some of his own stuff throughout the day. He tells Chelsea tells him that Tucker's apparently now saying he's done with alliances. Yeah, I'm done with them. No more alliances. Nobody
Okay.
cares about me in this game. And Joseph is like, I hear he's getting really close to Angela though.
Yeah.
It's like, who knows? Who knows with that guy?
I mean, he's pissed. He's burned. His ass is burning because he really wanted something to happen at the eviction and it didn't happen. And now it's screw everybody. Even Rubina is getting it. Like, I don't even know if I can trust Rubina. Is Rubina like just smooching up on me to fool me? And she cares about nobody but herself, because why wasn't she in on this plan? Like, he's just mad and confused and sad.
Mhm. He brings up Quinn's final twos. And they're talking about how there were apparently 6 final twos. 6 of them. That's like a third of the house. And he's like, yeah, Leah apparently had one. He did try to do something with me, says Joseph. I'm sure he did something with Tucker too. Chelsea says, oh, I think the 6 are Leah, Rubina, Kenny, Angela, Cedric, and Chemo. And those were the 6. And I don't know if she even noticed that Joseph just admitted to having a final 2 with Quinn. But she says those were the ones. Quinn has been adamantly denying the Kenny one. He does not know that the Leah one has been exposed. He does not know that the Cedric one has been exposed. And he should know that the Chemo one has been exposed. But you know. Joseph says to Chelsea, he must think I'm stupid, because he was like, yeah, the only reason I told Chemo about the power was because he was on the block in the first week. And Chelsea does her thing where she's like, oh, yeah, totally, I agree, but she doesn't really care. Joseph says the only good thing about it now is that he knows he needs us. He has to stick with us now because his game has been exposed. So basically, what Joseph is trying to do here is undermine Quinn's position. He knows about the Pentagon. He knows that Quinn is in a better spot than him. But he also knows that Quinn has been leaking a lot of information to him. And so if he can use this to undermine Quinn's position in those spaces, then he can destabilize the power structure and get in a little bit. The problem is that nobody actually seems to care.
Yeah, and he doesn't really. I don't think that outside of just being a number, I don't think that a lot of the people in the power structure really see him as, like someone that's like a good ally. At least not right now. There doesn't seem to be like a lot of interest in forming a real deal relationship with him. I mean, he tried to do that whole thing last week that we were all sort of like making fun of. And it just, it's a good thing that he knows like where he's at and that he's trying to sort of like, raise up in the ranks. But at the same time, since you've sort of like been out of those conversations for so long, it's going to take a bit of time for you to be able to actually like dig in and actually be like a contributing member to the strategy talk in the power structure.
He's kind of the opposite of Quinn, where like Quinn has all the social relationships and none of the follow through with the strategy. Whereas like Joseph is like doing the right things, but just doesn't have the relationships.
You don't got the Riz.
Back it up to manage it. There's some prank wars going on in the house. Cam has been pranking people, and with the help of Tucker, they put some ranch in the milk. And they also put some things in the Dr. Pepper. This is gross.
I mean, Dr. Pepper is gross anyway, and I know I'm probably about to get a bunch of, oh, you agree? I'm always in the minority. Yay, another Dr. Pepper.
On this podcast, we're the majority.
Oh my God, I hate it. It's so nasty. Why couldn't you put like milk in the ranch? Okay, you had to put ranch in the milk. Like I would probably still be pissed off at that, but like it's a little bit less gross because there's already like a little bit of, that creaminess within the ranch. Why you got to go ahead and add some savoriness to my milk? That's disgusting.
Cedric had a better one, which is just he swapped out the cereals. He put the cereal in different boxes so that people would be like, "Oh, this isn't the cereal that I wanted."
That's a good
one. There was also this is a wild thing that happened. I have not been able to, unfortunately, my methods of watching the feeds missed this little section that I wanted to see for some reason. There was just a little bit of a gap, and it happened to be here. But I've certainly seen lots of discussion about this, but I haven't even, nobody seems to have clipped this. I can't find the clip of it, so I haven't watched it myself. But there was some talk about the moon landing.
Was there? Oh no, I didn't see this. Oh my God, please enlighten me.
That apparently Brooklyn was asking people if they believed it really happened.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go.
And like I said, I haven't been able to see the clip myself, so I don't know if the wording here is correct. So take this with a grain of salt if you have not watched this yourself. But apparently there were multiple people who were like skeptical.
It's a real thing.
About the moon landing. Yeah. And apparently Cam said, I don't know if we landed on the moon. I do think we landed on a moon.
Whose moon? Jupiter's moons? Whose moon?
Which is the funniest conspiracy theory I think I've heard in my life.
And why is it our moon?
we listen. The idea that we would have the technology to land on our moon is insane. There's no way. Now, a different moon, a further moon, perhaps. It's very much like the agnosticism of conspiracy theories, except it's way worse.
Yeah, there's like it's like there's no fooling you there.
I don't believe in God, but I believe in a God. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not the same as that, Cam, actually. It's very different.
Straight to the delusion part of the conspiracy theories. But I'm actually surprised about how popular the moon landing skepticism actually is amongst the general populace. There are quite a few people that I am close to that are very avid skeptics of the moon landing. And I will say that some of the things that I've like listened to, I'm like, okay, I can see why you arrived at that conclusion. I'm not sure I believe it, but okay, there's a little bit of thinking going on there. But yeah, it's a thing. It's a movement, Taran. It really is a movement.
Yeah. It certainly is something. There.
That's Lisa or invalidated her damn moon water.
Listen, that's what I will say is just in terms of conspiracies, just be careful. Just be careful. There's a whole rabbit hole that happens with
Yeah,
conspiracies.
I don't like
Uh,
them. They cause me too much anxiety thinking about them. I don't like it.
Anyway, I will maybe be able to update if I'm ever able to get the actual clip. I don't like, especially with something like this. I don't like to like solid.
Propagate.
I cannot confirm that Cam said that. It's just it was so funny. I had to bring it up. If I ever actually see the clip myself, I will confirm to you that it was what happened. But oof.
Ask him in his exit interview, which probably won't be too much longer from here.
All right. So, Quinn talks to Cedric. He says, Cedric, I went with the plan that you proposed. I put you on the block. Cam and Chelsea were both down for it. And he says, well, what we can do is we can play up that you're mad at me for it. Make me seem like a dick. I don't care. And they discuss that, like, okay, that makes sense. And Cedric, even at some point, a little bit later, is like, so should I maybe not use the veto on myself if I win it
Yeah.
so that I can face off against Tucker in the AI arena? He was like, I don't know. I mean, would that look weird? Like, oh, maybe we can play it off
Uh,
like, hey, I'm gonna face him down on the court, you know? It's like, oh boy, here we go again.
why? Why? What sense does that make? It's so stupid. The whole point is that you do not go home and that Tucker goes home if you win the veto. That is one less chance for Tucker to stay. Take yourself off the block and let Tucker fend for himself. Because then what happens if Tucker beats you in the AI arena and you didn't use the damn veto? You idiot. Like, I just don't understand. It's too much. It's just go back to the basics. You win the veto, you're on the block, you take yourself off the veto. You know, I know that you saw what Tucker just did last week, but Tucker is one of a kind, okay? It doesn't
He
happen
was
normally
also
like
going
that.
to be voted out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
it's enough.
Okay. So Tucker talks to Chemo. He's been talking all morning about how Chemo has a secret final two with Quinn. But for some reason he's gonna go to Chemo and say, listen, Chemo, I only trust you. And he's gonna complain about Rubina to Chemo. He says, I think Rubina can play both sides. I've been hearing a lot of things. There's pushiness there where there doesn't need to be pushiness. Like for instance, she never told me how the house was voting on Thursday. Um, there's just some tension between Tucker and Rubina that's gonna continue to boil up throughout the day, only to be completely sizzled out. But
I mean, I kind of found it like maybe I'm turning into like a little bit of a Tubina shipper here, but like
ooh,
I kind of found it kind of cute because Cedric literally told you to your face, we don't have the votes. But Tucker's like, well, if Rubina had said it, then maybe I would have done it. So I'm like, oh, well, oh well.
well, Quinn talks to Tikor and Chemo. They're gonna have some more visionary conversations throughout the day, which obviously have been necessary from Quinn's end. And they talk about how to like maneuver forward in the game from this point. He basically lays out that the way he sees the game playing out is that they should just stick to the collective until jury. And then at that point, they turn the tables on the Pentagon with Joseph. They pull Joseph in, they turn the tables on the Pentagon. That's how he sees the game playing out. He tells Tikor that Chelsea is the number one game player in the house, followed by Brooklyn number two in terms of positioning and skill. So the
Mhm.
closer that she can get to both of them, the better, because they will use their influence to help protect them. And he says, honestly, Tikor, you're playing way better than I am. I'm very messy. Um, so interesting again. I feel like we've learned a lot about how Quinn, orders his final twos, and how he sees the game moving forward. Given what we know about what he said to the cameras about how again he sees Brooklyn at the top of his priority, and then Joseph. I do think that what he's saying to Chemo and Tikor is true. That he wants to turn the tables on the Pentagon. at the jury. I think that by the Pentagon, he means Chelsea, Cam, and Cedric, and that he will use Joseph and then maybe secret weapon Brooklyn to help do that. And then he'll maybe try to ride this middle between Joseph, Brooklyn, and Tikor Chemo. And, I think that's how he probably sees it right now. And what he doesn't see, I think, is that is a few things, many things actually,
Mhm.
but primarily that Tikor and Chemo have a closer relationship with Joseph than he thinks, and that Joseph is not nearly as loyal to him as he
Right.
thinks. And that that, and all that said, there is still a world where this works, and he is one of the few people that is able to recognize the truth, which is that Brooklyn and Chelsea are at the top of the food chain right now.
Yeah. I had a thought earlier this season where I was like, I wonder if we're gonna get like a Quinn versus Joseph type deal. And this could potentially go down that route depending on like when that first inward strike takes place, because as you mentioned before, you already have Joseph trying to sort of like take Quinn's spot. So what's going to happen first? Is Joseph going to be able to wriggle his way into like a deeper section of the collective, thereby also being in better with the Pentagon than Quinn? Or is Quinn going to be able to take that strike first at like the core? And does Joseph go along with that, or does Joseph try to ride the middle? So I'm like, it seems like both of them are like trying to get to that like next part in the game, but don't necessarily have all the puzzle pieces for them yet. So I'm like, I'm interested to see who gets in there first, because the other person will probably be gone at that point.
Yes, well, nominations finally officially happen, and we see that Cedric, Mackenzie, and Tucker go up on the block. Quinn's
Mhm.
power is used, but he is the deepfake HOH, so that is what the board looks like for now. Um, After the nominations happen, Cedric does start to worry a little bit,
You
thankfully.
think?
He's like, well, if Rubina's the replacement nominee, that means there's a chance that at the end of the week, I'm sitting on the block next to Rubina, which is not ideal. What if I don't have the votes against her? Chelsea reassures him that he would have the votes, that he doesn't need to worry. But it is a legitimate worry. I mean, like, let's
Mhm.
quickly run through how this might look. If Cedric is on the block against
Mhm.
Rubina at the end of the week, he knows that Chemo and Tikor are really close to Rubina and that he might lose their votes as part of the collective. So if he doesn't have
Mhm.
Chemo and Tikor, then that's 2 votes right away. There's going to be 10 votes total. So those 2 plus Tucker plus I
Mhm.
guess Angela doesn't vote probably still.
MJ probably keeps Rubina.
MJ, he doesn't have enough of a relationship with MJ to know for sure what she'd do. Leah, he doesn't have enough of a relationship there to know for sure what she'd do. And now all of a sudden things are looking a little weird,
That's
a
5
little
votes right
dangerous.
there. And then even the other 5, I mean, the guaranteed ones that he has out of the other 5 would be Cam and Chelsea. But then like it's like, what does Joseph really do there? I would I
Yeah,
would I would I would venture to say he probably stands on the side of Cedric.
I
That's
think
like,
so too. But he's relying on Brooklyn, Cam, Chelsea, Quinn, and Joseph to like hold strong,
mhm.
and then Quinn, breaking the tie essentially, to keep him, assuming that Quinn does that, which I do think he does. Um, it's not a huge worry. He should be good in the same way that Quinn should have been good last week, and Quinn ended up being good. But oh,
It's
sorry, they're saying
the risk.
Angela votes breaks the tie.
Okay,
Was that confirmed by Quinn? I didn't catch that yesterday. Um,
well, I mean, yeah, because how would that work? Because if this was supposed to be secret, right? Like, what
it
happens?
would
Like,
just it would
in the
just
event
be
of a
it would
tie,
just
Quinn
be
votes, and then Angela just gives that vote,
whatever Quinn votes would be how things go.
and
If Quinn
Angela just
broke the
presents
tie.
it.
Um,
Okay.
okay, they're saying Quinn did confirm. Okay, so I did not catch that part of it. So Quinn apparently will not be breaking the tie. So he would need 6 votes, which is that actually does get very dangerous.
Yeah. At the very least, if it's a tie, I think Angela votes to keep Cedric.
I think so too. I do think that Angela would lean
Unless
Cedric over
Tucker
Rubina.
gets to her and
But
is like,
that's true. If Tucker is on the other side of things, then it could very much go the other way. So yeah, that's a little dangerous. That is a little dangerous there for Cedric. Okay, so Quinn does check in with Tucker. He says, "Listen, I know we're doing this big feud thing, but like, I just want to make sure you're okay on a human level." And Tucker's like, "I'm fine with you. I'm just pissed at Rubina right now."
oh my God.
Because Rubina's pissed at me. I'm just playing a character. You're right. We're just doing a feud thing. You know, we're playing it up. Because basically what Tucker had said after the nomination ceremony was, I've already beaten you two. And then he was like, and then she stormed out. What the is that? Like, she doesn't understand how sports work. She's basically telling me to shut up. It's annoying, man. Like, we're playing a game. I'm being a character in the game. I'm not hurting anyone's feelings. She's making me feel bad for having fun. Quinn's like, well, if it would help, I can talk to Rubina and let her know that this stuff doesn't bother me. And Cedric, who is like walking by, is like, oh, she's mad about that? Yeah, it doesn't bother me either. I can talk to her. And so this is
Thanks,
you know.
wingman. Appreciate it.
Listen, you know, women, they just don't understand sports and camaraderie and you know, it's just some good old locker room trash talking.
I mean, on some level, it's like, yeah, sure, Tucker, fine, but like, it's not football where it's like a point system game. Like, it's a social game. Like, you can do all the trash talking you want, but like, if you don't win that right veto or that right HOH, yeah, your ass is grass. So, but aside from all of that, before you even tackle that, Rubina she wasn't pissed. She just walked away. Like, it wasn't a storm off. She just, the meeting dispersed and she dispersed.
Yeah, it was very funny to me to find out in this, to see the Tucker stuff, and then you hear Rubina talk to Tikor about it, and she's just saying like I was just like upset. I was just annoyed that Tucker is just doing things that are bad for his game. Like, I just want him to chill because I don't want him to be in a bad position, and I don't want to be in a bad position with him.
Like, what did you want her to do? Like, after the ceremony, run up to you and then jump into your arms?
Like, and so they didn't hug after the nomination ceremony, and so that's the big thing. So Rubina goes to Tucker, she apologizes, they hug. He says he wanted her to hug him afterward, and she says, I'm sorry. And they make up and it's fine. But Tucker tells her that he has some new plans. Now that he's on the block, he's going to compete in the veto. He would like to, if he gets house guest choice, he would like to pick Quinn for the veto competition because he wants to give the people what they want. He wants to compete against him.
Yeah, there we
go. And he also, meaning, by the way, that he would not pick Rubina to play in the veto. He also says later that if there's a prize in the veto competition, he's taking the prize because he'll just win the AI arena instead.
Oh my God. Okay, it was kind of like sexy in the beginning, but now it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, all right there, buddy.
So Chelsea also talks to Tikor a bit here. She says that she really wants MJ out soon because she just can't deal with it anymore. MJ follows her around the house all day, and it's just kind of annoying. So she can't wait for MJ to leave. It's just like,
let the crowd say that is a good thing. That's a potential ally.
I mean, listen, I don't mind Chelsea saying this to people to like take the heat off of the fact that MJ is there all the time. But the problem is that I think she actually believes it.
Like, come on. It's like she's trying to force a pariah so that there's always that target. And that is fine. You're right. But you might as well have the pariah can vote. Okay. She's not a convicted felon. She can vote. So let it happen.
Yeah. Chelsea was doing one of her cam talks right after with Tikor in the room where she is saying, you see, This guy's socks again. Cam's socks, his dirty socks, laying on the floor. Can you believe this guy? And then Cam walks in. And credit to Chelsea, she didn't panic. She was just like, oh, and here look who just walked in, the man I'm talking about. And he's like, what are you talking about? You're not gonna put me on TV and act like I'm dirty.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm not dirty. She's like, then what is this? What are these socks? Are these socks clean? It's like, no, but I took them off in my sleep because my toes got hot. She's like, and you just left them here all day. He's like, I didn't want to fold my clothes yet. You're gonna do this to me? You're gonna put my suitcase on blast, my clothes on blast? He's like, what do you want me to do?
She's been doing him dirty like for a while too. Like
he has no idea.
There's gonna be a whole montage at the end of this season of her talking about his cleanliness. Yeah, it's not looking good for you, Cam. Just at the very least, hide them. You know, if you don't want to make the effort to go all the way over to the washing machine,
hide them.
Just at least don't have them just out on the
effort
floor.
To hide them, put them away in the proper place.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you are too lazy to at least make a trip, then at least cover them up. Like, that's all you have to do.
Yeah, but I feel like then you're creating something even worse almost, where it's like now you've got like a contained environment where it's just gonna get really really
eventually gross. That contained environment is gonna pop open and he's gonna have to do something at that point. But like, I don't know, bro. Like, she's gonna keep doing it. I'll tell you that much.
So Chelsea also says to the cameras later that this season is a low budget rom-com. She's sick of it. There's people like Leah, Rubina, Tucker, MJ, and Joseph, and they're completely unaware of what's going on. And this to me is what tells me that she doesn't care about what Joseph was saying about Quinn. She's just like, this guy, he's so in the dark about things. He thinks I care about what Quinn is doing. MJ, she thinks that I care about her in this game, but I don't. Like, that's to me was kind of like granted, she could theoretically still care about MJ and just recognize that she's in the dark. But it does feel like this is my biggest thing with Chelsea right now is that like she's in this very good spot. But part of why she's in such a good spot is because she has MJ, and losing MJ this week would not be good for Chelsea. She should be keeping MJ. There's a reason why later T-Core and Kimo are going to talk about like we should take out MJ. And it's partially because nobody has MJ except for Chelsea. And so we'll see.
Yeah.
Joseph does try his anti-Quinn stuff on Cedric as well. It's a very similar conversation about his final twos and stuff like that. So he very much has this agenda that he's trying to work on. It's just, again, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work. I think if Joseph really wants to like drill a hole into this structure, he's going to have to be a bit more forceful and probably like at some point, if he really wants to tank Quinn, he's going to have to let them know that Quinn outed them and outed their alliance.
Yeah. Or just like you can hold on to that information until you win HOH, like, and then really just use it to hammer it home. Because he's doing a lot of knocking and no one's answering the door. And I just think it's just a byproduct of sort of just being a little too late to the party. And I mean, even the people at the top, like even with Chelsea, like in the way that like you were just describing the way she was talking about her positioning in the game and everyone else sort of like being in the dark. Even she is sort of like yeah, she's doing a good job, but some of your game some of it is based off of your early positioning as well, and it is still very, very tenuous. Like a lot of your stuff is exposed without you knowing too, and people see that. T-Core and Kimo see that, like, and it could come crumbling down. So I think that if Joseph finds a way to talk about just how tenuous this is, yeah, for sure, you could shake something up.
Yeah. By the way, I talked yesterday also about Joseph and how he had gone to MJ saying, hey, you might be going up on the block, and how I don't like that. She did in fact say today, like, what was up with that? How does he know? Like, how is he in the know about what's happening? And was a bit skeptical of Joseph because of that conversation. So again, I just don't think that's a good call. Tikor, Chemo, and Quinn talk some more later in the night. And basically Tikor has been thinking. And Quinn brings up like his idea again about kind of sticking to the collective for now. And Tikor's like, I would like to brainstorm some other plans for the long term game. For the long term game. And so basically, Tikor is not super down for the collective, but before they can really get into that, Rubina ends up joining them. They talk about her and Tucker. She talks about how she doesn't want a showmance to define her on the show. And Tikor's like, Taylor had two showmances. She wasn't defined by them. Quinn said, well, that's why she's the GOAT. And so they talk some more about that. Quinn ends up leaving, and Rubina's like, "Is he gonna put me on the block because I'm close to Tucker? Is that like a possibility?" Like, and so there's a little bit of discussion about like, okay, the 5 points alliance. Is there any way we can make this work? Can we reconcile Quinn and Tucker? Can we bring Quinn into it? Like, is there some way to make this thing work?
Yeah.
And there's some discussion there. Some discussion there.
Yeah. Not for long, but I think coming back together after a big blow up, I feel like we always see some people trying to employ that strategy. When it comes to Big Brother, it's often so hard because once that like initial trust is broken and there's like been some of those like bad blood exchanged, I feel like it's just so hard for people to ever truly feel comfortable coming together in that way. We saw, the only one that I can really think of that it actually worked for the time being, but the person still ended up going home, was way back in BB15 when Alyssa and Amanda tried to make that thing work, and they actually did almost get something moving, but it didn't work because Andy was there. So yeah.
So later, Tikor talks to Quinn alone. He asks her how she feels about the collective. She's like, not great. Like, I really would like to do something different. I don't like this path that you have laid out for us. I don't really want to just lie down and ride with the collective. I want to do something else. And she pitches this idea, like, could we try to work with this other group? Could you maybe like get something going with Tucker? And he's like, I can't. There's just no way. There's just no way. Like, I had already been trying to work with Tucker, and then he just went ballistic on me out of nowhere. There's just no way that I could ever trust to work with that guy. He's so volatile. And so it's just like, I don't think that there's a way that we can make this happen. And the problem with Rubina is that as long as Tucker is here, I can't really work with her either. I can only really work with Rubina once Tucker's gone. Just in general, it's hard to do anything other than the collective while Tucker is still in the game because he's such a wild card. They had been trying to put together this Visionaries group that was labeled the Underdogs Alliance, that had Tucker in it, and that was how they were going to challenge the main power structure. But with Tucker just going totally wild, they have to deal with Tucker first, and that means they have to work with the collective for now, and their entire plans have to change. And Tikor's kind of like, that does make sense. Like I do get that. So she does try to warn him a little. Now, Tikor and Chemo had planned to give him like a solid warning about Leah, exposing Leah to him. They never did. The closest she gets is like, I don't know if Leah has your best interests. And he's like, oh, yeah, I was getting that feeling today. I got some weird vibes in our conversation. She lied to me about MJ. But again, like, she doesn't go deeper. She doesn't tell him any more details, especially in that moment. He's expressing some doubt in her anyway. It's such a great opportunity. Doesn't go ahead and do it. But that's like where Quinn stands on it. And she discusses it with Chemo afterward. Like, yeah, we think Quinn is all in with us. And he would like to work with Rubina, but only after Tucker leaves. And so it's just like, it does make a lot of sense. Tikor says, I think we need to just tell Rubina straight up, you need to friend zone Tucker now. If you want to not be in this position, because their position is bad, and this is all Tucker's fault. Tiger's like, I don't want to ride it out with the collective, but Tucker has made it so difficult. And Chemo says, well, what about like, me, you, Brooklyn, Quinn, Chelsea? And like we want Joseph to make it far. It's like Cam we should probably take out. But there's just it's a harder path here, and they're trying to figure out which players they can work with. And the ideal situation this week is that MJ leaves. That's what they would love to have happen. Even if they can't work with Tucker for now, they can get Rubina to separate from him. He can continue to be a distraction for the other people. Maybe they can pull in people like Chelsea and Brooklyn. And that maybe that's how they can make things work. And it's just it's very frustrating listening to them, because Tikor especially, I think, is like totally like sees what she needs to do. But they never do the things. They just talk about the things so much. And like they know about the Pentagon and they continue to talk about Brooklyn and Chelsea. Like Quinn is telling you, get close to Brooklyn and Chelsea so that they use their influence to protect you, not pull them into a counter alliance against their own power structure alliance. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like they just feel so isolated within the game that it's giving them like a lot of like choice paralysis. And I mean, I agree that Tucker is like a big problem and he doesn't do himself any favors. I don't know. So I'm kind of like going back on what I said before about like how it's so hard to sort of like bridge a gap when that bridge has been burned so badly. I still feel like there's like because yes, Tucker is crazy, but he's also not like, and like, I mean, I still think that there is a world in which, because what I'm remembering about last week is, when Tucker got exposed for trying to get Quinn out, and Quinn was like, well, what the hell? I didn't know this was gonna happen. I have to use my power. I was gonna use it. There was like a level of sportsmanship there where Tucker was like, you know what, like, bro, like I thought that, it was just worth a shot, that the game was getting stale, like no hard feelings. And there was like a level of understanding there. I don't know if it's actually a far cry to be like, is there a world in which we can just like talk to Tucker about working together, because there is a bigger alliance here that he's also not a part of. Let's give it a shot. Like he still wants Cedric, right? We can give him Cedric's head. Why does it have to be Quinn's head? It can be Cedric's head. Or if we're not,
like you're throwing away your entire game on a gamble with Tucker, where then
I don't know if it's a gamble if you put Tucker at the forefront, because everyone is always going to be like Tucker. Like,
yeah, and when he wins the AI Arena competition, it leaves you on the block.
Who, Tikor and Chemo?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Quinn.
No, well, yes, by extension. But yeah, I think I would say my point was that I think that Tikor and Chemo, I don't think that it's necessarily like it doesn't necessarily always have to be Quinn that is doing the power broker.
No, for them, Tucker. Keeping Tucker makes sense. I think they come to the correct conclusion that MJ leaving makes sense for them.
Yeah, for sure.
But for Quinn, I don't think there's any coming back for Quinn and Tucker. Tucker's made it very clear that his entire philosophy in the game is that he wants to take out the biggest players first. He thinks that Quinn is the biggest player. He was already in an alliance with Quinn, and he just flipped on him on a dime. For as much as they talk about their it's just sports talk, like there's clearly a lot of actual animosity there.
But I think, that was what I was getting on before. Is like I feel like, if that is Tucker's philosophy in the game, all Tikor and Chemo have to do is tell them just how bad of a position Quinn actually has. And like, you don't necessarily need Quinn to be the one advocating for himself all the time.
He's not actually in a bad position. He's very well connected.
He's well connected, but he's not like his whole game got blown up because of what you did, right? Like he is not like at the top position of the house. And if you want people out that are at the top position in the house, just tell Tucker that Quinn is not at the top position in the house.
But this is Tucker. He will listen to you and go, no, you're wrong. I know.
Maybe. I think it's worth a shot.
I don't.
I do.
I don't think. I wouldn't go near Tucker with a 10-foot pole in that house.
I don't. I mean, T-Core and Chemo aren't like the best like speakers anyway.
I mean, I'll say again, I think T-Core and Chemo can go closer to Tucker. But I don't think that they can do so. And also get him to work with Quinn. I think that is a losing battle. You cannot get Tucker and Quinn in the same room together, working together in a safe way. I think if I'm T-Core and Chemo, I'm happy to keep Tucker in the game. I'm happy to play him off of Quinn, but trying to get him and Quinn to work together is going to blow up in my face. Let them go after each other all they want. I'll keep working Quinn on one side and working Tucker on the other. I don't need to try and fight a losing battle.
I mean, I think that that's a nice compromise. Like, again, I don't think that they need necessarily to be like, Tucker, you need to work with Quinn. We need to call a truce here. I don't think that you need to go that far, but I do think that you need to, like you just said, I think that there is something. I think that there's a much better path forward, and there are more options if you are getting Tucker to focus on other people that are not Quinn, or at least someone that ahead of Quinn. Like, give him somebody else's head.
Well, certainly. I mean, the more Tucker is focused on Cedric, the better. And he is talking about Cam. Like, yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, if you can get him to go after Cedric and Cam more so than Quinn, I think that's definitely the play. Because especially Cam, like, if you keep talking up, like, you're totally right, Cam is so mad that you won. It should be Cam, Cedric, and Quinn on the block. You're totally right. We should do all three of them. That would be quite the arena, wouldn't it? And then with Cam on the block, like, hey man, Cam and Cedric are the close ones, right? Quinn is kind of on his own. It's definitely Cedric or Cam that we should take out. Like stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's definitely the way. And I think there's a world where they could easily make that work. They have the connection to Rubina to be in his ear. They have their own voice in his ear. Tucker is Tucker. And at the end of the day, he wouldn't in control the vote anyway, but they probably would have the ability to do a decent amount of work there. I think Joseph would be on their side in that. And so keeping Tucker around makes a lot of sense. For me, it's just like, this all requires like an actual game plan. Like at this point for me, it's any game plan, just anything. Just commit to any path and start working on it instead of talking about it, because you've been talking about it for weeks and nothing is happening. And that's a frustrating position to be in, especially when you have somebody like Cedric on the block right now. You could, and they talked about, like, should we try and flip things right now? They feel like they can't because they don't have the support of Quinn, and the Tucker thing is too dangerous. And I get that. But why not just at least explore, like, hey, what if we started talking to Mackenzie? Like, Mackenzie is such a good person to bring in. Instead of talking about protecting Chelsea and bringing in Brooklyn, why don't we start talking to Mackenzie and see if we can pull Mackenzie away from Chelsea so that Chelsea isn't as dangerous and we have another number on our side? Like, instead of talking, like, can we do something about the Pentagon beyond just like trying to give them the information about everything we're doing by bringing in Brooklyn into every alliance that we have? It's just like,
I mean,
I feel like, I think I'm frustrated because I feel like they're close. I feel like they're almost there.
Yeah.
But they're just circling around the answers.
Yeah.
Not actually landing on anything.
Yeah. I think for one thing, I mean, Akimo really isn't like I was saying before. I don't think he's really the one to like really be out in the forefront of things. So that's just like not his nature. That's not his gameplay. So that was always going to be a far cry for him. For T-Core, I also think that she's just like non-confrontational by nature. Like, we see her whenever conflict arises, even if she's not in it, she walks out. So I just feel like she's not doing enough to be more forceful in the game, which on one hand seems great because then she's under the radar a lot of the time, but it's kind of like what you said before. With your inaction, you're just empowering somebody that actually does make the move to be the only one making the move, and that could be y'all now. That could be y'all.
And so we talked about it, right? Cedric versus Rubina on the block at the end of the week. If that happens, I do think that they need to pull the trigger on what we said was a possibility. T-Core, Chemo, Tucker, MJ, Leah, Angela, a voting block of 6, flipping the house around, taking out Cedric. Where does Quinn go after that? He runs back to them for sure. He will want to continue to keep his spot. They're not going to burn Quinn on that. Tucker was safe anyway. Tucker is still a big problem for everyone to deal with. People like Chelsea and Brooklyn and Cam are going to be like running to like, how do we find power again? Joseph is going to be scrambling. They take control of the game there. Like that is their opportunity, in my opinion. So if that's what happens, I really want them to take that shot. We talk like the leftovers happened in week 3. Like this is not a game where you should be waiting and waiting and waiting while the power structure that you know exists just continues to solidify and gather power. So we'll see. The talk was again, the talk was promising, which is why it's like, like if they never talked about it at all, it would be like they should be doing this. But the fact that they're talking about it, it's like, come on.
The nature of the twist too is just like being there 3 nominees and then having to run a bunch of different scenarios about like, okay, if this person wins and that person loses, blah, blah, blah. I think while it can be exciting, it also does, I feel like, stifle a little bit because you're just trying to figure, okay, what am I going to be dealing with on Thursday? That's all I care about. Who is going to be on the block on Thursday, and then what do I do in that event? And the fact that no one really knows yet is like, ugh. But I mean, I'm just hoping that with maybe a little bit more time, things become a little bit more clear to the likes of Chemo and T-Core, because they seem to have a really good grasp of what's going on. They just are not. They are thinkers and not necessarily doers, which isn't always bad in Big Brother. But right now, I think it is. So.
All right. Well, Aman, anything else that you would like to bring up from yesterday?
No, I'm just I'm excited to see what happens with this veto. I mean, I love the people on my draft, but if Cedric goes, he goes. If Rubina goes, she goes. I just want to like see these people start churning a bit more. That's all I want.
Yeah. I mean, as of right now, I think MJ is actually maybe in the most danger. Like at least up there with Tucker. I think it's probably going to be Tucker or MJ this week.
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know. And that's what we have for you today. Long, detailed one, but there's a lot of important details to talk about. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including the veto results and what we might see from the veto winner. Whether they will use it on themselves or who they might use it on is an actually relevant question to ask. So stay tuned for that. Of course, tomorrow night, there will be an episode. I'll be live on Twitch watching the episode. And then afterward, we will be here with a very special guest. Bowie Jane will be joining us for the Sunday night.
Okay.
So stay tuned for Bowie Jane's opinions on the season. So tune in for that. Of course, again, find me on Twitch. Check out our scripted TV coverage and the stuff we had for the getaway finale. Aman, what are you up to?
You can follow me everywhere at Aman Adwin. I will be here all summer long talking everything BB26. You can also catch me over on the Diary Room podcast with me and Matt Lagori. 6 players go in, 3 players go out, all the way until we whittle down to the best Big Brother player ever, whatever that ends up meaning. We've had both Sharon Tharp and Mike Bloom on the podcast this week, so definitely go ahead and check those out.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you then today. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to go and watch the women's climbing final for the Olympics that I have not been spoiled for yet. And I will see all of you next time.